You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. All right, folks, the Western Hunt Expo is fast approaching, and we have another gritty movie night that we're going to bring your way. We have booked a theater for February the 13th from 6 to 8 o'clock. You can get tickets by going to briancall.com or go to the description field in our YouTube videos or check out our socials. We'll put the link in all those places. And we've got more than $10,000 in prizes for you to win. It's going to be a fun night. The movie that we're showing you is called Wild Arrow, Bow Hunting Bighorn. It's about our friend Jeremiah Plyer, who is the owner of the Wild Arrow Archery Shop. It's an epic adventure. You don't want to miss it. Here's the teaser.
He's dumping blood, I got him.
It sounded like a hit, but I also heard rock behind him. I don't know. Man, desert sheep with a bow. What an experience, dude.
Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. Got Brad Hunt here beside me. I'd like to know what you guys think about the fires in California.
Yeah. Devastating.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, you know, a lot of these environmental issues that get brought up and political issues that surround them affect wildlife and hunting.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
I was just watching Rogan and Steve Rinella having a quick discussion, actually.
Yep.
And they were joking around, and Rogan brought up the creepy video of Gavin Newsom talking about how he's like this, and he's bouncing back and forth, and he's got this huge smile on his face about how he's standing there with a reporter in front of like burned out homes.
Yeah.
Yep. And Rogan is talking about how disturbing the video is because he's smiling. He's like, yeah. And so I've been hanging out with my buddies, and we're already making plans with, you know, everybody on how we're going to buy the land and rebuild it and do this stuff to it. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. And he's talking about, he's doing this with some folks from Hawaii who already benefited from the Maui fire, where you see these wealthy people swooping in. And imagine you're one of those people who your house burned down in California. You don't have your property anymore. You didn't have insurance.
Right.
And remember, the state's like, well, don't worry about not having insurance because the state's going to cover you. If you're one of those people, you're hosed because the government isn't like, what did Reagan say? The scariest words in the human language is, hi, we're from the government and we're here to help you.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
No thanks. No, thank you. And you know that the government is not going to do them right. What did Biden say after the hurricane? You each get $700.
Yeah.
And now after this fire, he's like, congratulations, everybody. The government's going to give you each $700. You can't even buy a week's groceries in California for $700.
Nope.
It's absurd. So here we are with these burned out homes. The government's supposed to save you, which to me sounds like a boondoggle to transfer wealth. To go, well, hey, the government can only help you X amount.
Yeah.
And now what do people do that can't afford to cover their own house? Insurance walked away. Government's holding you over a barrel. So then what? Oh, just sell it to me for half or a quarter of what its original value was.
Yeah.
That's what I see. That's what I see Gavin
Same here.
Newsom saying when he's in front of the video. I see a massive transfer of wealth to certain individuals in government pockets,
Right.
to rob the middle class and the working man and everyone else of a future, to fatten the rich cats. That's what it looks like. Okay. So Rogan shows this to Steve. Steve kind of, I don't know if he was just sort of dancing around the political minefield that's there. He didn't really weigh in heavy. Looked like he hadn't seen the clip. I had seen it like last week, so I already knew what Joe was talking about. He watched the clip, but he said, I heard Trump kind of disparage the smelt, saying it was a stupid fish, like a nonsense fish that you don't need. And so because of that stupid one fish, there's no water in California
the water supply has been diverted elsewhere.
And so the way that I understand the situation, there is a fish that was put into the endangered species category, and which allows lawmakers to make a lot of decisions based on saving that animal, that fish.
Yeah.
Wherein they take the water that should have filled those reservoirs that would have normally gone to California, water flowing out of like Canada,
like
BC
or whatever. Yep.
Of course, it's got to go through like Montana, and it's got to go through Oregon and Washington, Oregon, and make its way down, right? And get to California, and then it hits California, and it sounds like California's like, yeah, we got to save this fish, so the water we're going to pump into the ocean. Massive amounts of water. We're just going to divert it from these other locations because that water causes problems for this endangered fish. Last year, we did a couple of seminar events that were like 2.5, 3-day weekend events. We're doing those again this year. We're going to 4 different Shields locations, and we're going to do a seminar. Myself, Ryan Lampers, and Mark Livesay. One of them is a bear tour event. And
Boise, Idaho.
The other 3 are elk related. So if you want to come to those events, they're in 4 different states.
Idaho, Montana, Colorado, and Texas.
There you go. To learn about it, we're calling it the Peaks Tour. Go to treelineacademy.net. Go over there, look up the Peaks Tour information there. You can sign up, come, learn, and ask us questions. It was a hit last year when we did it, so I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's a fun multi-day event, and hope to see you there. Go to treelineacademy.net and look up the Peaks Tour. Ranella told a story about how he grew up fishing smelt in the Great Lakes region where he grew up, and that it was a big deal. It was a rainbow smelt. And, he's like, hey, man, I care a lot about the smelt. I've a lot of, and so do the people who grow up around that fish, So if it's endangered, it matters. At the same time, he said he wasn't as offended when he realized that the fish in California wasn't the rainbow. It was a different type of smelt. Brings up a lot of issues. And Ranella said, anytime you talk about, an animal, my hackles get up. There's a couple things that the way that I see the situation. Unfortunately, I think that the way that the Endangered Species Act has been used,
it's been abused
for,
I think,
decades. Most of the time when I see behaviors enacted because of that law, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. That's the thing. I think you're lying.
There's like, and we're going through it right now in Wyoming and Montana, especially with the grizzly bear situation. You've had for years and years, a decade at least, of biologists and conservationists going over actual data that suits and fits the bill. Like, no, we are in a position we can allow tags to manage these grizzly bears. We can help enforce them. That'll also help a lot of problems with interaction between human and bear. And then you have another judge in wherever, in Supreme Court or whatever it may be, brings up another endangered species. I don't know what the right wording would be. It just basically based off of
a new ruling
based off of how they feel versus data. And so now you have the grizzlies that are back on the
reality is the Endangered Species Act gives weight to political decisions.
Right.
It's been weaponized. Too often they use that act to push some other agenda.
Right.
Like, for example, let's take wolves. Wolves are not endangered.
Not at all.
They were never endangered. They were listed as least concern. They were extirpated from regions of the United States, meaning they were no longer living in
this particular region.
In the region that they previously had.
Yep.
Well, guess what? There's no buffalo living in Buffalo, New York either.
Exactly.
There's no buffalo in most of the United States where they used to live. We won't call the buffalo extinct.
Yep.
It's been removed from where it previously lived, but it's not endangered.
No.
In the same way, the wolf was never endangered. It's just a lie. Wolves were never endangered. They're not endangered now. They weren't endangered back when they put them on the endangered species list.
Right.
They're all over the world. They're all over, I should say, North America. They're also in Russia and other parts of the world. So wolves are here. They're not at risk of extinction by any stretch. Yet they'll tell you, and a common misconception that we're trying to fight when we put out a wolf film
always
is to say, no, wolves are not endangered. You've been lied to.
Yep.
They lie to you all the time. You must stop hunters. You must stop this. You must save the wolf because otherwise they'll be gone forever. It's not true. When that doesn't work, which it's starting to lose its influence, then they move the goalpost, and they say, well, wolves are not endangered. Yes, we agree, or we get that, but you shouldn't hunt them. It's not moral.
Yeah.
They'll say that kind of thing. They'll kind of switch it around. But what you end up with, though, is this weaponized Endangered Species Act where other motives are being pushed.
Yeah. Right.
So when you say the smelt is endangered, is this endangered like buffalo are endangered right now?
Yeah.
Like wolves are endangered?
Or is it actually going extinct?
So that's question number one is,
which I don't think we know the answer to yet. I don't know.
Is that smelt over half the United States doing just fine, just not in that local location?
Yeah.
One of the things that they'll move the goalpost to is, well, without wolves, the whole ecosystem crashes. That's been debunked. That whole, what do you call it? Trophic cascade.
Yeah.
It's just, Cliff Gray does some great podcasts on this where, when we brought wolves back to Yellowstone, we saved Yellowstone. There was no other way to do it, and so the wolves killed all the elk and brought them back into play, and therefore it allowed these plants to grow, and now the other animals in the region can survive and live there, like beavers and everything else.
Yellowstone is being sued by the state of Montana because of their management towards the buffalo now.
Well, and
saying there should be a lot more buffalo there, and the wolves are because of that.
And it just proved to be that whole study, which sounds great, and people still quote it. It turned out to be completely debunked.
Yeah.
You could accomplish a very similar thing just by allowing hunting or harvesting of elk.
Right.
It didn't have to be by wolves. It could be done by humans as well.
Right.
And also it's overinflated, like the the overall mass benefit. Now, I think there are definitely benefits to having wolves on the landscape, and I think they're here to stay. That's fine. I believe we just should manage them like we do everything else.
Everything else.
There's no romanticism of one species over another.
Right.
And just do what's best for the overall environment, economy, the whole balance of things.
Yep.
It all comes at a cost. So when you look at the smelt situation, that's my first question. Is it real? And, or is it just politically worded to be almost extinct? Right.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know.
I think the folks of California would like to know as well too.
Then so if it's the wolf situation, it's nonsense.
Yeah,
basically, it's nonsense. There's smell all over the United States. They're in all these other rivers. Blah blah blah. And in the meantime, you also have to weigh in the human aspect. The more human civilization advances, the more you can look at this statistically, the more the environment heals. The more poverty stricken a nation is, the more the environment's raped and pillaged.
Right.
It's sort of a luxury to be an environmentalist. If you're living in Botswana, or I shouldn't say that, I don't really know anything about it. It's just some Congo or whatever, some random spot on the planet, and you're just trying to live hand to mouth. You're not really concerned about whether something's going extinct or not. That's a luxury of the wealthy and the elite and countries that are doing well. But what you see is people care more and more about the environment, the more they don't have to worry about survival.
Right.
But anyway, when the water gets routed away, you got to look at the cost of other species too. How many other animals are struggling because there's not enough water?
Exactly.
There's a lot of people consuming water that live in that region. What are you going to do? Just execute the people? Like make a move? Well, that's just a fact of life. There's people there. So what are you doing for all those other animals? Are you trying to save this one smelt while you're like
killing all the fish, or even fish, but you're killing, the rabbits and the squirrels and the deer and the bear.
And then, I mean, when you let it all burn down at the rate that they do, because they don't manage the forest.
Yeah.
And wildfires are a natural occurrence.
Right.
That's nature doing its thing. But when you suppress fires all the time, and then you allow an unnatural environment to develop over 100-year period, now you have a massive tinderbox. And the fire that we get is not natural.
Right.
It's one that burns the entire state down.
And it burns a lot
contiguous, massive
and a lot of times it'll burn so hot that it doesn't allow... We've seen it in certain areas. It doesn't allow that undergrowth and the seedlings to sprout back up because it burnt so hot.
Yeah,
because there was so much fuel there.
It's done. Right, exactly. And so there's a lot of costs to these decisions made by politicians and governments that you might stop the water flow due to this one fish while you just burn the whole state down.
When I look
and
at
all
it,
those animals that and the entire forest and everything you had ecosystem wise is now burnt to crisp and done.
Yep.
That's a result of you trying to save that one little fish. Like
Correct.
It's like common sense has left the building.
Yeah. Well, I look at it in like a timber industry side of things, is some of your most, and this is not just in the United States, but elsewhere, Canada especially, you look at your healthiest forests, and a lot of those healthy forests are managed by people to go in and timber, cut them, log them. They take care of the underslash, get that old growth out, allow new growth in there. And where you look at areas that the logging has been shut down, well, now you got beetle kill. Beetle kill doesn't show up until 15 to 25 years after it's been there. It started too late when it starts to show signs. And so you're not getting that growth out. And then you have the expansion of the deadfall continually going through it.
There's this utopian view of environmentalism where individuals want the forest to be untouched because that's natural.
Right.
They want you not to hunt. Just let it be a natural place. The reality is we do live on the planet. Humans do. We do engage with it.
Right.
And the land
we have since the beginning of time.
Yep. And the land can actually be leveraged to maximize the value for everything on it.
Correct.
We can maximize the human food source in terms of like elk and deer and so on, or bear meat. We can maximize that by also, hunting some wolves and trapping and stuff, so we can keep some of that in check. So there's more elk and deer that can be fed to the human population than just feeding it all to an unchecked wolf population. Yeah. We can keep the herds at a certain stock level in the environment so that they never are endangered of being completely wiped out by a hard winter or something. Like, there's ways to manage it as a renewable resource.
Correct. And when you when you manage animals too, then you also in turn are managing the different grasses that are growing and stuff. It's just like cattle on when they have these feed allotments.
Yeah.
When we go out in the desert and stuff, this year you can only graze it here. The next year you can only graze it here. And so it's like, it allows each year to kind of grow and be fed off.
Yeah.
And I've had some buddies that, I think Africa is a prime example. I've never been there, haven't hunted it. I don't know. But as I've talked to other people, they're like, you can literally see this side of a fence is managed. The animals are managed, the villages, everything like that. And this side is not. And it is dead of life.
All you have to do is go down to the Arizona border.
Oh,
absolutely. Stand at the border wall.
Absolutely.
There's a fence there, and you can see on one side all this forest, whitetail, coos deer running around, mule deer, all these animals, cats, lions. You'll see all these jackrabbits and so on. You look on the other side, and it's dirt for as far as you can see.
Right.
A donkey here and there that's half starved.
Struggle to find some animals over there.
And it's just the whole thing. That's a vast difference in management of the same exact landscape.
Correct.
It's this utopian idea that you can just completely be hands off, and somehow this magic equilibrium occurs. It doesn't work like that. The planet doesn't work like that anymore. You could manage something like that when the populations were sparse.
Yeah.
You had nomadic living. There was no cars, no highways, no. Like modern world is not that way. So these forests could be, and these wildlife resources can be managed in a very useful way. And some states really knock it out of the park.
Right.
They do a great job. Others are corrupt and completely politically toxic.
Right. Brainwashed.
And let's just be honest, California is. Yeah. It's a disaster. What you're seeing right now play out between the homelessness and the trains and the subway systems, and you're seeing the fires. This is all due to that process of managing for money and power.
Now we may exclude some of the Northern Californians because
I'm not saying Californians themselves. I'm saying California leadership.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stems from the cities.
Yep.
Is bad. And this is why when I hear the smelt thing, I'm like, I don't believe you, because I watched them funnel money to Ukraine. I'm looking at like some of that Doge info Elon Musk has posted, and I'm going, okay, wait a minute. There's billions and trillions not accounted for by that department, that department, that department, that department, that department. All the money just goes overseas, and we're just supposed to believe it didn't just go into a whole bunch of politicians' pockets. Just like Ukraine just looks like one giant money laundering washing machine.
Yeah.
You put it over there, and then you just give it to whoever you want. There's no accountability for where they spent it or how they used it. None.
But that $600 in your Venmo, they'll find it.
Yeah.
They'll find it.
That's what I mean. Like, so I don't believe you when you're telling me something's endangered.
Exactly.
That's step one. So do it matters that we get the truth, because it undermines the entire point of the Endangered Species Act when it gets weaponized like this.
Absolutely.
And I think there's an overall political climate agenda that's just sort of taken over the minds of these sort of left-wing people, especially, where they can use the climate story to then push funding that then enriches lobbyists and their friends and different
Right.
corporations that get all the money from these initiatives. Yeah. And so if you're in government and, you promise 10 different green companies that if they pay for your campaign and they pay for this and that and donate, you'll make sure that they get the taxpayers' dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You'll shut down the flow of water, which will then increase your sales for XYZ, bottled water maybe. It's just like, it's crooked, dude.
Yeah.
It's dirty and
It's
crooked.
ridiculous.
And so, when I hear Brunella, it's not good that my first instinct is, I don't believe the animal's endangered.
Yeah.
Because you lied to me too much.
Mm-hmm.
That said, animals are going extinct by the day, by the hour, all the time.
Right.
And those numbers are pretty disturbing. So is it possible? Absolutely. So, but then again, what do you do? It's sort of this conundrum where you're like, do we save this one and cause the death of 7 other species?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think those analyses are really performed because I don't think most of what they do is based on actually trying to do something meaningful. It's based on
how can I put dollars in my
ideology, and it's based on power and money.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I'd agree, 100%. I think honestly, in my opinion, it's like they care less about the fish, and it's how they can put money in their pocket.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat. When you're dancing like this and like, yeah, we're investing, we're taking all this, and you're telling how you're going to come in and buy up all this property with other rich cats and government entities. It's like, I don't believe you that you're doing anything for the people or the environment.
Exactly.
These are all just, pretexts for some evil, nasty trash you're trying to perpetrate on
power.
The people.
Is, I don't know. Some people do great with it. Other people, it's a curse, and it's the devil.
We're the government, and we're here to help.
We're here to help you. Okay, thank you for my $700 on my $500,000 house that just burned down,
dude. Yeah. Anyway, there's no answer exactly that I have for this. It's just something that's bothered me, and seeing these fires in LA, and it's unbelievable. And you can contrast how this is being handled. The fires come all the time, much like the hurricanes hit Florida. Mm-hmm. But you can see how the state of Florida is thriving and the people are thriving.
Right.
And when these bad things hit, they're ready.
Correct.
And then you flip to the other side. Nobody in California, they know the fires are coming.
Yeah.
They did nothing. They had no water in the bunch of these reservoirs. They have no insurance on the homes.
Yeah.
They didn't clear anything or do. The fire chief is like the assistant fire chief, the fat black girl, butchy black girl.
Yep.
She sits up there and says, she's disgusting. She's absolutely, what she says is so disconnected and repulsive.
Right.
If you haven't seen the clip, she says, what people want is someone that shows up that looks like them. It makes them feel seen and heard and comfortable. And it's like, dude, I do not care whatsoever.
No.
Like, I'm not racist. Mm-mm. So I don't need anybody to show up and look like a white old guy like I do.
Right.
Like,
I need somebody that can carry my ass out when I'm passed out.
I don't care what color you are or what descent or, I'll take a ginger. I don't care. Like, it's all, can you do the job?
Exactly.
Are you a cool person?
100%.
Are you like a good person? That's it. That's what matters. It's merit on capability. Mm-hmm. Can you deliver? And she's like, it matters that they look like you. That is a racist person.
Nope. When it comes down to life or death, that does not matter 1%.
The only way that matters to you is if you actually view people that don't look like you,
right, as a lesser value,
as dangerous, lesser, like you put them into some kind of dark, disparaging bucket. That's category. What you did. That's the real racist, pretending they're not racist.
Yep.
Then It gets worse. And she says, the people are throwing out comments like, yeah, but can she do the job? Can she carry heavy things? Can she perform on the job? And you can't carry my husband out of a building. People will say that. And when I hear that, I tell that person, well, if he needs me to carry himself out of a building, then he put himself in the wrong place.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been in that position.
He shouldn't have put himself in that position if I got to carry him out of a building. And you're like, a table could have fallen on him. He could have, there could have been like, he could have broke his leg. There could have been like, it's called an accident. Did he put himself there? Maybe somebody came into the house, invaded it, and did something bad, or like a natural disaster. To say something like that. So when you come in and she blames the victim, look, you got yourself into this dire situation. I know I'm a fireman. I'm supposed to come in and do this thing, but I am not going to do that because you're white, male, and don't look like me. It's like, dude, the darkness. And then she laughs and she acts like they put this in a video and they published it.
Right.
Like it, that's the disconnect. They didn't know that this is grotesque.
Yeah.
That's who is running your fire department.
Yeah, exactly.
In this area. So it's not a shocker that it burned to the ground. That's not to say there's a lot of great people that are there as well, but your leadership.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
Is a mess.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad to see, the people of California, they are the ones that are suffering from it. I mean, we can sit here in Idaho and be like, this is a terrible thing, or Utah.
Yeah.
It's different.
But dude, I have sympathy and I don't have sympathy.
Yeah.
I'm a little mixed on some of that.
Same here.
Nobody deserves this.
No.
I, however, would have left California years ago, just like I left Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I could have stayed. I left. Because I voted and I made a decision for my future based on leaving.
Right.
Because when you no longer reflect my values or will do it, you can stay and fight. But some of this stuff, you can't win anytime soon. Yeah. The population it's so far gone.
Right.
There's a reason people left England and came to America and started over.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, you had a chance to move during COVID when basically they stripped you of your rights, wouldn't let you go anywhere, shut down your restaurants and your businesses. When the insurance is removed from your properties, when they tell you have to get the jab or you can't go to work or travel or go when they went full commie.
Exactly.
You could have left to a different state like most of the people did. Mm-hmm. People will say, well, I don't have enough money, or I don't have a job. You move anyway.
Yeah. Right. Figure it out.
And
sometimes the grass is greener on the other side.
But if you're one of those people that wants to stay and fight, it's where you grew up, it's what you care about. You know the score.
Yeah.
You knew that this was a possibility. And some people were hit hard. And they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They're there because they're built from a different cloth. They're cut from a different cloth. But then there are those who have been in denial this whole time. Everything's fine. These are not the droids you're looking for. And now they're like, oh, all the things that we have been telling you are wrong have now come home to roost.
Yes.
Like you now are fully aware in a way you never have been before that people looting your homes that are illegal immigrants while you're away,
and your government,
then your house getting burned down, your
you.
Government not really coming through for you. They let your houses burn. They just sat there with no water and stared at fires burning everything down.
But the fire hydrant was painted a nice rainbow color.
Mm-hmm. So they're, unfortunately, I think sometimes people must learn from consequences to wake up.
Yeah.
One of the things that a book I read, it was a while ago. It was called Luxury Beliefs. Something like that.
I read that.
It was the concept. concept is if you live in the Palisades or in Malibu or something, and you're not affected by the policies in place, you know, your food gets delivered from a grocery delivery service. You never really have to be on the streets. You don't have to get on the subway to go to work every day. You live in a rich part of town. The police still do their job there and run off some bad people. When you live in those environments, you can say, defund the police. You can say, hey, let's go down this road and do this thing and do that. And you can promote a lot of luxury ideas that are there for the luxury folks. Like where you can virtue signal that you're this great person that's open and liberal, and while at the same time, nothing you actually promote hurts you. It's like saying we should have gun control while you then have a squad of 20 dudes protecting
security crew, exactly,
in a gated community. But everyone else should not have a gun.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of luxury thing you'll see happen rampantly among those that are disconnected from their actual policies.
Yeah.
As soon as those policies affect them, and this is what that fire did, it affected those people. Yep. Now they're rethinking Newsom. They're rethinking California in general. Correct. They're rethinking everything they've thought because it has now come home to roost. It has now come into their backyard. And now they all of a sudden they are starting to get worried about all the things that before they shamelessly promoted. Yep. That's why when someone that is in that category of luxury, elite, wealthy, that is promoting something that's against the First or Second Amendment, I'm like, you don't have to suffer the consequences of your choice. If you don't have to suffer the consequence of your choice, I really don't care what you have to say.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like, if you haven't served in the military and got shot at, should you really be the one voting to send people to war?
Yeah, right.
There's an inordinate number of females voting for us to go to war, by the way, which we could argue about women. I showed Suzanne a clip yesterday of the women in Congress just going at each other for like 10 minutes. Women are petty. Women are petty. Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show. Some of them are the pettiest.
Right.
Some of my favorite gals are so petty. Like, I would never want to get into an argument with Candace Owens. Yeah, love her to death. She's out there sometimes. That woman is petty. Like, pick, like, you can't even... You can't even say boo without like, what did you say? Baby girl? What? It's just insane. And you see all these like women going at it in Congress and dudes are sitting there going, what has happened?
Yeah. Right.
And not all women are that way. My wife's not like that at all. But a lot of women are. On that spectrum.
Drama.
They're leaning the other way.
And I think hormones have to play a part in that.
They're just different, dude. Women and men are different.
Emotional.
They run on a lot more emotion than men do.
Yeah.
So that's why I think women are just built to be in charge of, like, they're authoritarian.
Yeah.
They're built to be in charge of like a little community.
Yeah.
Men are meant to like work with large communities.
Exactly.
Not again. There are exceptions. There's like someone like Megyn Kelly. I would put her in charge of anything she ever wanted. But she is a fairly like, she's more man than girl, like, and then there's dudes that are so feminine and weak that I'm like, yeah, you really shouldn't be in charge of much. Yeah. I mean, it's just generalizations, but yeah, I see our government and I see the decisions that are made and I'm like, it's just a disaster.
Yes, it is.
So-
Hopefully, this changes things for the better. I can hope for.
But I mean, look at all that burned down.
Yeah.
I was looking at Seth, Black Bear Pursuits. His bear hunting grounds burned to the dirt.
Yep.
And like places he grew up hunting and imagine your favorite hunting area.
Yeah.
Gone.
Well, and that
the 100, 200-year-old trees, the hillsides, the forests, everything that you had, like, just gone, and the animals too.
Right, and that's the thing.
So
where are they all going to go? Not like they're going to go to one spot overnight. I mean,
they burned.
Yeah,
they burned.
Right.
Have you seen how fast some of these fires move?
Oh yeah, trust me. Oh yeah.
I was in Alberta years ago, and a flash fire had come through, and there were all these antelope standing there in the middle of these fields with their eyes burned.
Yeah.
And they couldn't see, and they were just slowly dying.
Right.
Because they were blind.
Yeah, we've had calves and stuff like in fires, burnt ear tips, things like that. Pretty scary. And it's amazing how, well, it's not amazing, it's incredible how fast a fire can, especially if you have wind and you have the fuel, how fast a fire can cover ground and how many miles it can cover in that short amount of time. Scary.
Yeah.
Super scary.
Anyway, well, I hope those folks down there do get the support they need. I hope it's a wake-up call for folks to look at the leadership that's down there and eject those people.
Yeah,
they're all frauds. They're all corrupt frauds.
Yep.
Although I don't believe that they've really had an honest election down there in I don't know how long.
Who knows?
Since before I was born, probably. For real. Like, when I look at some of these people that get voted in, I don't look. Why was it that Kamala Harris got voted in everywhere where there's no voter ID required? First of all, how can you say you had any kind of real election if there's no voter ID required?
Right.
Like, it's just nonsense at that point.
Yep.
You completely nullify it completely. Like, without that check, it's not what the thing you're saying it is, which is an election. It's just an installment of whatever you
things
want.
that are on a much smaller scale that I'm required to show my ID for.
Yeah, it's just absurd. So it's like, oh, she won all these states, no ID required. There's your asterisk right there.
Right.
And I got to wonder how much of the folks in California are just victims of that corruption.
Yeah,
absolutely. A lot, I'm sure.
I think a lot.
So anyway, hopefully they do better. But yeah, I'm a skeptic. Not so sure I'm down with the Endangered Species Act in general. That thing needs to be totally revamped.
Yes, it does.
Here's the thing: if politicians and lawmakers approached that act in good faith, if everything was done in good faith, it would be a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. But the good faith part is gone.
For sure. Absolutely.
I heard Pam Bondi yesterday in her Senate hearing, and she was like, we're going to approach these laws, but in good faith. Like, she kept saying that, and it got me thinking, and it's like, well, the reason she's saying that is because the law says you can't do X, Y, Z.
Right.
And so they come at you like, you don't have a film permit to film on a hunt, let's say. And they look at that and they go, is that what this law meant? That, a dude with his iPhone couldn't record his dad shoot that bull and post it to YouTube? Is that what they meant? He didn't have a film permit?
No.
Or did they mean like big Hollywood production like Dances with Wolves needs a permit?
Yeah.
It's not good faith to come after the dude filming his dad with the phone and putting it on YouTube. That is BS.
Exactly.
To me, that's where so much of the law gets weaponized, because they're not approaching the law from a good faith perspective. That means the law, first of all, the law should be written in such a way that it's almost, you can't do that with it.
It separates
if it's well
the two.
done. If it's well done.
Yep.
But too many of our laws are just fairly generic.
Just generic, and
they get passed because they get thrown into some big boondoggle giant pork spending bill.
Yep.
And it just gets roped in there. No one even read it. And then it's written in a way that it can be weaponized against you and me, which it has been.
Has been.
Now, Brady Miller, on a side note, he did send me a note the other day, and I think he was showing me like, go hunt, or not go hunt, but he was showing me that they passed a ruling that you don't need a film permit.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it though. I heard some stuff.
It was that law that a bunch of lawmakers were trying to get through. I think Newberg was kind of working on it and stuff, where they were trying to say, okay, wildlife and hunters, they're exempt from this sort of nutso permit stuff, and they just sort of created a new thing and put it in where it was just a mass exemption, so they can still keep the law. I don't know, but it does appear that it's not needed anymore.
That'd be nice
on a federal level.
Mm-hmm. That'd be nice. Save some bucks,
but you'll have to look into it.
Yeah, to
find out for sure. We're not doing any filming anytime soon. We got a lot of stuff from the years. I spent $22,000 on film permits 1 year, and I don't make enough money. That's what I really wanted to pay Brad, help pay Brad's salary. But I had been prosecuted for the film thing, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to we're going to let it all go, but from now on you got to have permits. But none of my peers got them. Mostly, I shouldn't say none. I shouldn't use a maxim like that, but nearly all.
Yeah.
So I was sort of singled out, and there were political motivations behind it. Again, this is why the whole weaponizing of the justice system is gross.
It's failing. Yeah.
And I spent like $22,000. It was rough. And then a year later, I spent like $20,000.
Yep, right at 20.
So between those 2 years, $42,000 in paper, just to allow me to just go out and do what everybody else did without spending anything.
Yep.
Then they went on to a forum, and all these guys on the forum were like, Brian Call is just raping the system, and just like they do on forums. And they said, yeah, he says he spent all this money on permits. No way he spent that. It doesn't cost that much, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And then here's the receipt.
So here's the receipts. So it was actually my sister.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she was indignant. She helped me get all the permits. I hired her full time.
Yep.
Well, I paid her for her hours to get
the
permits.
permits. Yeah, exactly.
So the whole 2 years, all she did was get me permits. I didn't have time. It was a silly process. It was absurd. Yeah. We had to basically tell people. They're like, you don't need a permit. I've never sold one before. I'm like, well, I do.
Yep.
And we had to force them to give us permits.
Correct.
So that we could.
And every department is different. Every location is different. So
it took 2 or 3 weeks just to find the person to sell you the permit. And then they would be like, I've never done one of these before.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing was absolutely
a crap show.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
And then she posted, she creates an account and posted the information about how much those permits cost. She's like, I'm sorry, here's the daily rate for filming on federal public land.
Correct.
And here's the daily rate if you want to take a photograph. You have to have a permit for the photos, and you have to have one for the filming.
Yep.
And then the forum blocked her because that's not the narrative they're trying to sell.
Right. Exactly.
She brought the receipts, and they're like, well, this doesn't trash Brian enough. Yeah, these are facts. We can't have facts. And the forum blocked her and removed the information. And that was basically when I was done with forums for the most part. People will get on there and talk about me and say, hey, they said something about you. You should get on there and defend yourself, whatever. I'm like, these people are not good faith actors.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of those people on those forums, they don't care about the truth. It could be staring at them. You could give them all the receipts you want, and then they're just going to move the goalposts. They're not good faith actors. Yep. So I think it's well overdue, and I'm glad that the film permit thing is being sorted out, because most of us out there are just trying to do the right thing. And when you have a small business, like a little YouTube channel, And it's grown. It's grown because hard work and effort and skill and so forth over the years. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, this thing has been a little harder. I had to learn a lot over the last few years and get better and better at what we do. We're a small business.
Yeah.
Hiring you got postponed for like a year because I didn't have any money to cover a salary that you would need.
Right.
And growth was slowed down exponentially because of things like this bureaucratic film permit requirement that was never really meant for someone like me to have to get. And the cost was just overblown, like $350, $400 per day.
You can give us your experience, but if you've ever had to fill out the form for a film permit, you can answer no on every question, but then you're like, oh, well, I still need a film permit though.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the stupidest questions.
Are you making an X-rated porno?
Correct.
No.
How many bathrooms do you have?
How many actors and how many actor trailers are on the like? What are you doing so everyone can go to the bathroom? What's your porta potty situation?
Right.
It's so absurd. The whole thing's absurd.
It's like, well, does not apply. Does not apply. Does not apply. Oh, still got to pay $2,500 for a film permit for a few days. And by the way, if you buy the permit for that spot, you can't go 2 miles over to this other location. Correct.
Like deer just sit in one location. Yep. Like my unit, can I get a permit for the whole unit? No, you can't. You have to pick a spot in the unit dependent on the location.
Yep.
And the person issuing the permit, but the whole thing's absurd. Anyway, I started out just wanting a quick conversation about sort of this endangered species topic. Anyway, it's wandered, but folks, I hope you found it
as a whole
interesting.
The same corrupt people are at the top of it. That's how I feel.
I'm optimistic. The future looks bright. I kind of see
there's a cultural shift,
a cultural shift happening, and I'm excited about it. But anyway, look for our movie. We're gonna announce it here soon, and if you can come to Salt Lake during the Hunt Expo week, join us at the theater. It's going to be fun. Tickets aren't going to be too bad price wise. Just trying to keep it basic, and we'll have a fun night. Throw out some free gear and just get together, and hope really show you a really cool movie experience. Yep. But that's it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one. Stay gritty.